Hello and welcome to FSHN101. So to begin the semester, let's have a conversation. How did we get here with food science? Well, for us to learn how we got here, we need to investigate some of these modern food science technological advances, and we want to understand a little bit more about nutrition as well. In science, we want to use reputable sources as the basis of our discussion, but you may wonder, well, what are some reputable sources? Well, we're going to trust peer-reviewed journal articles. If we look at peer-reviewed journal articles, we even have a range of ones that are high impact down to low impact. Journals such as Nature Reviews, the New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, these are all going to be ones that people trust almost all of the time. We also have the National Institute for Health, or NIH. We can trust them as a reputable source as well. And WHO, or World Health Organization, as well as .gov, or government sites, and .edu, or educational sites. If you want to learn more information about high-impact journals, you can click on the link within our learning management system. But I do want to highlight that food is more than nutrition. As we discuss food science and human nutrition in this class, we want you to understand that individuals choose food for a variety of different reasons. For example, celebrations. When was the last time you went to someone's birthday party and they didn't have a birthday cake? That would actually be rare. And if you turn down the birthday cake, it's kind of socially a faux pas. We also give food for gifts. We make gift baskets around Christmas time. We have food rewards. For things like potty training, we might give someone a little Cheerio, or we might give them a little M&M to thank them for going pee-pee or poo-poo on the potty. In a darker side, we can actually use food policy and legislation as a political tool, or even worse, a weapon of war, where we might be blocking food aid or stealing seeds. There's a lot of important history when it comes to food, and understanding how long a food has been around is pretty interesting reading, in my opinion. In the Library of Congress, they have this food history timeline that a librarian and food historian created. It's been peer-reviewed, and if you want to know when your favorite food was made, I encourage you to check it out on your own. Look and see how diverse our food supply has become throughout the course of history. But no matter when it is in history, we've always spent considerable time and money obtaining food. If you think about early humans, there was a lot of hunting and gathering occurring. They had groups of people that lived together in part to help each other get that food. And when weather changed and food was unable to grow in certain areas, people became nomadic, so they would go to where the food was. And we were cooking for ourselves in early days. So we went from wondering where our next meal was coming from in early humans to having Wonder Bread. So currently, we're working at our job. I know I'm not hunting and gathering much in the outdoors. I'm grocery shopping. I might buy prepared foods that have already been made for me. So there has been a shift. However, when I'm working at my job, I know that a lot of those resources are going towards the food that I will be consuming. So there has been this evolution of the food system. It starts with changes in agricultural practices, where crops are becoming more and more efficient. We've taken wild animals and we've domesticated them. So now we have domestic cattle, pigs, and other animals. We've taken small local grocery stores and made them big stores where you can get 18 different types of peanut butter. We went from shipping food locally to getting food from all over the globe. And we have these very large food companies that are working smarter to provide you safe food. And we've got a lot of advances in food processing. In fact, we have a lot of brands that you can look at. And you may wonder, why is it we even have brands? What is the point of a brand? Well, Simon Cliff, former Chief Marketing Officer of Unilever, likes to say, a brand is the contract between a company and its consumers. So if you buy Jif peanut butter and you like it, you'll continue to purchase it because you know what to expect. When you open that Jif peanut butter, it has a classic smell that you'll recognize. It has a mouthfeel that you're accustomed to. If for some reason that Jif peanut butter doesn't live up to your expectations, you may change a brand that you purchase. If you're interested in finding out how some food brands were born, you can look at the history of them by clicking on the link within our learning management system. We also have the invention of a modern kitchen with modern kitchen appliances. And with these modern appliances come more opportunities. We have freezers, refrigerators, microwaves, stoves, deep fryers, air fryers, blenders, mixers, and my favorite, the dishwasher. With freezers and refrigerators, or we like to call them fridges as well, we can safely consume meat for days from the fridge or even months from the freezer after purchase. Can you imagine what that would mean to someone who was living thousands and thousands of years ago? We can actually have leftovers. We have a longer shelf life, which means we have less food spoilage and reduced food waste. So even though you may think, oh, it's so environmentally wasteful to make this refrigerator, think about the long-term environmental benefits to using that refrigerator on a daily basis and decreasing that food spoilage. Another kitchen gadget that you may not think is going to be beneficial for the environment, but really is microwaves. These microwaves are safer for children. And if we're talking about the environment, they use comparatively lower energy if we're comparing it to an oven itself. We have quick heating and reheating of foods and drinks. We can safely defrost foods the same day. Microwaves are relatively inexpensive and they're very portable. I even have one in my office if you want to stop by and heat up your lunch someday. We also have stoves, and stoves contain a cooktop, or we can refer to it as a hob, as well as an oven. The cooktop itself is metal or cookware friendly. We have better cooking control compared to a microwave, so you can turn it down, turn it up at a moment's notice. It's very durable, that cooktop itself. The oven has longer and slower cooking. It is made for baking, broiling, and you can even think about making things like cakes and cookies in that oven, where if you're making it with anything else, wouldn't quite be the same. And if we're gonna make something like a French fry, it wouldn't quite be the same without having a deep fryer. A deep fryer takes food products, and what we can do is submerge them in oil or a fat, and we can quickly cook those foods at a very, very high temperature. However, when we're cooking them, they're going to be absorbing some of that fat or oil, and what they're going to do is increase their energy density, which means we're increasing the number of calories per gram of that food product. So we're actually going to be taking a regular potato and we're going to change its texture and flavor. Most people do like fried food though, so oftentimes when we're deep frying things, it changes that texture and flavor for the better. If you want some of the benefits of a deep fryer, but you're not wanting to take on all of that lipid in your diet, you can take some foods that are commercially made, or you can add a little bit of oil to some fresh foods, and you can use an air fryer. By definition, it's not really actually frying anything. It's similar to a countertop convection oven where we're moving hot air around the food itself. The air is going to circulate, and the contact between the heated air and the food is what's going to cause the outside to become crunchy if we have oil on the outside of that food itself from either earlier processing before the food itself was frozen or brought to you, or if you add a little bit of oil to the system itself. So there's less oil and comparatively lower energy density of foods compared to a deep fry system. Another fun kitchen gadget is a blender. And you might wonder, okay, well, what can I make with a blender other than just like a smoothie? Well, we can grind a lot of semi-solid ingredients into a smooth puree. For example, I know I made baby food with my children when they were little. We can also crush or mix ice for drinks. It can help emulsify mixtures by taking two liquids and making this colloidal suspension. We can blend and mix powders even, granules or liquids thoroughly with each other or again in their own state. And we can take something like peanuts or almonds and make butters out of them. We can take something like beans, like a lima bean or a chickpea, and we can make a pulse puree. We also have mixers, and you might think a mixer and a blender are the same, but a mixer is pictured over here on this slide itself. Oftentimes it has, again, a whisk at the end of it or something that's going to just generally mix the food rather than chopping it up. What this does is it frees up a person's hands so they can accomplish other tasks. You can use a mixer to whip egg whites, to make a meringue. You can use a mixer to make dough. You can use it to make mashed potatoes, frosting, or if you have a big head on your mixer, you can even shred chicken while still having chunks of that chicken in the end product. Like we mentioned, this is my favorite invention. I know I would cook much less often or prepare much more simplified meals if I didn't have my dishwasher. Dishwashers not only clean dishes, they can actually sanitize them with high temperatures, making your food safer for you to consume and minimizing foodborne illness. And if we want to continue to talk about the historical influences on the food we eat in the United States, I encourage you to watch this video covering a short history of American food, whatever that is. So you can either use your phone and scan this QR code, or you can go into our learning management system, click on the link, and watch the video itself. Take note of some important concepts as we walk through the article and video associated with this link. So we'll walk through the article and the video that went along with it. Hopefully you took some time to view it. So you may have noted that up until the late 1800s, vitamins were not really a concern. In fact, vegetables were not even a concern. They weren't a staple in the American diet. In the 19th century, black cooks had a pronounced impact. So a lot of the foods that you think of as American foods have come from that history. In the late 1800s, nutritional deficiencies were recognized, and individuals were trying to decrease the likelihood of those nutritional deficiencies. Cookbooks started coming out, schooling people on how to make healthier and more delicious foods. We had immigration also that brought with it many different cuisines to the United States. And the industrialization and war brought more processed foods. So in this short period of time, we had a large change in the foods that we consumed and the foods that we had available to us in the market. And you might wonder, how does the United States compare to other parts of the globe? What I want you to do is watch this short video talking about the fact that Americans spend the smallest portion of their household income on food. Well, the question to you is, does this mean that Americans are spending the least amount of money on food? I want you in this class to learn how to interpret scientific information at a deeper level. So look at this data and try to figure out what it means. On the next few slides, we're going to be discussing it. If you dive deeper into the topic, you'll notice that the figures do not mean that the food is more expensive in Nigeria than the United States. In fact, it's quite the reverse. The average American spends over $2,000 per year on food. The average Nigerian spends half that. The average Kenyan spends just $543 a year on food. However, keep in mind there may be wide disparities even within a country, such as the United States. So, for example, over the past 25 years, the poorest 20% of the households in the United States spent between 28% and 42% on food, compared with 6% to 9% spent by the wealthiest 20% of the households. That is a big difference, from about 6% to 42% of your household income, depending upon whether you are amongst the wealthy in the United States or not. So, when you're thinking about food insecurity, understand it can happen even in countries like the United States. With food scientists and consumers, we have different priorities of today's food industry. So consumers and industry collectively have a focus on nutrition and health, price, convenience, and taste. And taste is number one for the consumers, I'll have to say. If something doesn't taste good, chances are you're not going to purchase it again. Industry has additional priorities, such as technological innovation, environmental impact, and with industry, food safety is number one. If you're becoming more interested in this topic, I want to let you know that food science is a major at the University of Illinois. And there are many food science job opportunities with competitive salaries, even with a bachelor's degree alone. And you may say, yes, but I'm looking at these job descriptions and they're saying that you need a year of industry experience or experience in a food plant of some sort. Well, we knew that that was going to be the case. So we actually have a pilot plant here on campus, and we encourage students to come and work at the pilot plant. You can either do volunteer work, you can be an intern, or you can be a paid hourly. So as someone who's getting interested in this topic, if you're trying to decide between majors, come check out our pilot plant, come take a tour of the building in Bevere, have a conversation with me, and let me know if this is something you want to explore a little bit more. And as you get ready for the module assignment and more, let us know if you have any questions. We're always here for you.